This is The High Road with author and registered psychotherapist, Dr. Marlene Bizub. Dr. Marlene speaks to the heart of people who need to be lifted up and get out of the muck and mire that often accompanies major life changes, such as divorce or separation. Dr. Marlene will aspire to help parents of divorce to love their children more than they hate their ex, and to learn to take the high road. So please welcome the host of The High Road, Dr. Marlene.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Good morning, George.
Very pleasant good morning to you, Dr. Marlene. Great to be with you again.
Yes, well, good to have you. And as I often say, we've got a great topic because we do come up with great topics. But this one for today, I have special appreciation for, because I'm going to share what happens when people don't do the things they should do. You know, we talk a lot about people not doing the things they should do and the harm in that. But what we fail to do sometimes is talk about what people should do. And I'm going to throw in some whys. I'm going to explain in one instance why you need to do what I'm suggesting or we are suggesting people do, and what happens when you don't. And so, anyway, we could go all kinds of directions with this. But the first thing I'm going to say is, of course, as our show is named, people need to take the high road. I mean, bottom line, the takeaway message is take the high road here. Like, don't get caught up in people, the other parent baiting you and arguing with you. And they know how to push your buttons, they know what to say and do to get a reaction out of you, just like kids do. But, you know, we're really in therapy talk. We're giving other people our power when we let them push our buttons and provoke us. So the first thing I'm going to say, and then like I said, we could go 10 different directions, no, more like 100 different directions on this, but take the high road, right?
Well, I stand by what I said. I don't think parents litigate their way to a healthy co-parenting relationship.
No, no, never. No,
And it's unfortunate that some of them think they can, but
right.
they really can't. And it's a lot easier, I think, for them to take the high road if they're not litigating their parenting relationship.
Right. Right. Yes, it is. Because you don't have that threat of court. And as we're talking about, in fact, I'm going to just disclose that I have already been to court this morning before our show. And it is only 10 o'clock where you and I are, George, in the morning. I've already been to court. Granted, it was not a hearing, it was a status conference, but you know, it's kind of all very, I'm not going to say the same, but very similar. Going to court is going to court. And even today, the parents were told things to do by the court. You can tell, especially with one of the parents in this case in particular, did not receive the direction well. I could just tell by the look on his face and body language and all of that that he was a bit annoyed. But it's like, if you're going to take things to court to have the court solve it, then you're going to be told what to do. So if you're someone who doesn't like to be told what to do, then keep it out of court. So the first thing, I guess, is keep it out of court.
Well, I think the court equation, counsel has to be competent to go to court and to handle himself or herself in court. And I think that comes with experience,
Mhm.
and some training, possibly some mentoring and so forth. But the litigation track just seems to self-perpetuate.
Mhm. Yes, I would totally agree because it puts you in that combative posture. You know, you're
Yes.
in a fight now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that that it tends to breed fighting tends to breed more fighting. And
Yes.
so we want to get off of that as soon as possible. And at a time when people are intensely angry and hurting, we still need to help guide them, if I could use that word, to an alternative method of resolving conflict, to alternative to court.
Yes. Yes. And that can look a lot of different ways. That can be a settlement conference with or without your attorneys, preferably with your attorneys if you have attorneys. But mediation, you can get a divorce coach. I mean, there's a therapist. I mean, there's lots of different or unbundled services for an attorney. And someday we should probably talk about what all unbundled services are, what it is and what all ones there are, if that makes sense. But there's ways other than just jumping right to litigation, even if you have an attorney. But like we talk about all the time, attorneys by nature are, oh, I don't want to say combative, but they're in it for to win, right? I mean, that's what you're there for.
Absolutely. And we have an ethical obligation to seek the defined goals of the representation as defined by the client. So
Hmm.
it's important that the client and the attorney work together. And that means, at least in my view, the client doesn't say, whatever my lawyer wants is fine with me. I think the attorney and client need to have a cooperative, collaborative relationship. There's a coaching role for the attorney to play. But if all else fails, the attorney needs to be competent and capable to litigate.
Yes. And so the do on that is find yourself an experienced attorney and one who doesn't just want to go to court.
No, the myth of the pit bull attorney is just that. It's a myth.
Yes.
The pit bull attorney is often not well respected by the judges. The judges, I think, respect an attorney who is seeking a lower conflict method to resolve the case. I think they respect that. I think they do not respect the pit bull attorney who's trying to be mean and nasty just to show that he or she can.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because I will often have parents ask me for an attorney referral. Maybe they don't have an attorney or they have one, but they don't think they're tough enough. And they will actually say, I want a pit bull. And I'm like, no, you don't. And I tell them exactly what you just said. The court does not respect pit bull attorneys. If you're just in it to grandstand and fight and win and show off for your client, judges don't respect that. They don't.
No, and I think if it's difficult, I think, for people to select an attorney because there's not a lot of information about individual attorneys that's available. But certainly, a person should try to screen, I guess, for an attorney who is knowledgeable, who emphasizes taking the high road in their practice, who wants to counsel the client to seek an alternative resolution to litigation. And I think those attorneys are well respected. They're not seen as weak or incapable. They're well respected. They're well respected by the bench, by the court. And that's what we strive for, and the credibility that comes with that.
Absolutely. Because then, when that type of attorney who has that kind of reputation tells the court something is amiss, the court's going to believe them a lot more than the person who comes in and says, in every case, things are amiss on the other side. I think the judges start ignoring those types of attorneys.
Yeah, I do too. The court respects competence. The court respects preparation. And I think the court respects the work that is apparent when counsel has prepared their client to testify for the court appearance. And the difficulty is court for most people is scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to desensitize the client from the fear of court is very helpful. But I'm getting off on a tangent here about preparing people to go to court, and I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's okay. That's good too. Get an attorney who's going to prepare you if you do have to go to court. Eventually, you're probably going to have to at least go, if for nothing else, than to put an agreement on the record. And so they're still probably going to have to show up. And having an attorney prep you can be invaluable, because I have seen so many people go into court unprepared. They've not been coached, I guess you'd say, by their attorney to know what to expect and how to respond and how not to respond. And they just make everything worse for themselves. And I sit there and think, didn't your attorney prepare you for coming to court today? And often the answer is no, they really didn't. So I don't mind you getting off on that tangent at all.
Well,
Um,
I apologize for getting off into the litigation world there, but it is something that we need to be prepared for if it all goes south.
Yes, yes, because you can only control your side of the case. You can't control the other parent, other counsel. You can't control that.
No,
Yeah.
no, and I think lawyers who try to do that are in for a frustrating experience.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Another do is listen to your children. They don't need to get everything they want. But I can't tell you how many times I've had parents, when I ask them a question about what their kids want, they don't know. And they should be talking to them, not adult information. And especially don't make promises you can't keep. Like, don't say, your mom and I are going to have 50-50 parenting time. It might be, it might not be. You don't know. You don't want to say that unless you know. But just asking how they feel, what they want, things like, how can I make this better for you? How can I make it easier? And some kids will say, tell me what's going on. And then your response is, in child terms, I will, not in adult terms. Or some kids will say, leave me out of the whole thing. But I think we have to listen to them. And especially when they give us hard news, when they say things to us that we don't want to hear, we have to accept that. Too many parents I see try to change their child's mind instead of adjusting what they want. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. I have a dad right now, 4 kids, ages 4 to 14. Mom was a stay at home mom. Dad was the sole bread earner. And so he did not parent really at all. And it's foreign for the kids to be around him at all, and especially to be in his home, to have him trying to parent them and nurture them, things like that. Like, he has never been the one to nurture the kids. Not that he didn't care, wasn't interested, but the kids have said, we really don't want any more time than what we have with you right now. And actually, especially the 4-year-old, would like a little less. Well, dad's goal, and it's a fine goal, I will emphasize goal, is to have 50-50. That's fine. That's something to work towards. But to force that on your kids before they are ready is going to blow up. It's going to backfire. And the kids are not doing well with him in therapy. And that should be no shock. And so do listen to your kids. And he's asked them, here's the big mistake. He's asked them what they want. And again, not that they always get what they want, but he is not open to hearing what they want. And when I've asked him, well, what's wrong with that idea? Well, and he doesn't have a good answer. So
Well,
do listen to your kids. And if you are going to say no, have a reason why, a well thought through reason why.
I think one of the do's that's important, if we can get someone to get there emotionally and intellectually, is to display and recognize the need for the children to have a relationship with the other parent.
Yes.
I think that's a big do, and even in if it goes to testimony, I want my client to be able to indicate that he or she recognizes the need for both parents in the children's lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and to that point, I will share, I was teaching class downtown last night for the court, and two parents came in. It was obvious they were the two parents of these kids, and they were sitting together and they're talking. And so I asked, are you the two parents? And they said, yes. And I said, I want to commend you for being able to be here together. You appear to be civil. And one of them said, we recognize the importance of both of us in our kids' lives.
Wow.
Yes. And I said, amen to that. I mean, that's a big first step. And so, as you said, George, and it's a good point, do recognize that your kids want and need a relationship with both parents.
Yeah, I think that's critical, and the sooner we can get parents to realize that in the process, the sooner we can get on with trying to refine the co-parenting relationship.
Well, and it's amazing. I mean, when you say that, I'm sure people are thinking, how could you not recognize that? It's amazing how many parents don't recognize that. They're like, my kid doesn't particularly like his mom or dad, and it's like, really? Is that what you think? They're probably saying that because that's what they think you want to hear them say.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it again puts the child in the role of emotional caretaker of the parent, which is pretty
Yes.
grossly unfair to the child.
Yes. Yes. It absolutely is. Yeah.
So a big do there that I take away is helping the client to understand the importance of both parents to the children from their perspective.
Yes. And from their perspective is important. In fact, that's a good place to leave off because we will come back to that. I have things to say to that, and it ties in what I had just said prior. So we'll come back to that when we come back. But let's take a quick break. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Before we went to break, we were talking about recognizing the importance or need of your kids to have a relationship with both parents. And George, you made some comment about listening to what they want. That's what's important. Is each parent might recognize that the kids want time with both parents. But as I was saying just prior to that, what they fail to realize is that doesn't mean they want equal time. And this is where it's important to listen to what they want. And there can be a variety of reasons for that. They may not sleep well there. Like with this dad I was talking about, they're just not used to that parent and their parenting because they haven't been the one to parent them. So they're still learning them, whereas the other parent who was there all the time, they know them well and they know what to expect. And one thing kids don't like is to not know what to expect. That is something they don't like. And so, things like that are important to take into consideration. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that who's in each parent's neighborhood is going to matter to your kids too. It may not have anything to do with the other parent if they say, I want to be at the other parent's house more. It's probably, depending on the kid's age, it's probably due to friends in that neighborhood. And so that's what's going to be a priority to the kids at the time. And do you have to weigh all those different needs and priorities? Yes. But this is why a big do is listen to your kids. Listen to what they want, but why. And then, as I was saying earlier, if you're not going to be able to accommodate what they want, be able to explain that to them. They deserve some kind of explanation or reasoning as to why they can't do whatever they're proposing.
You're in an area that I don't get to play in.
Right.
Working
not
with
with the
children.
kids.
No, not
right.
with the kids. And but I am sensitive to parents who put their children in the emotional caretaker role of the parent. And I'm sure that the parents are usually unaware of that, but they need to be aware of that. That's a do. They need to be aware that the children are sensitive to what's going on. Um, one parent is going to be threatened if they don't have 50-50 time. We have to move off of that. That's difficult. I think it's most parents tend to see if they get less than 50-50 time, they're being minimized somehow. And
Right.
that's tough. That's tough to deal with. But we need to subordinate sometimes what the parents want to what the children need. And
Yes.
that's tough for them to do in these circumstances.
Yes. And I do have a question because I realize talking with the kids, hearing directly from them is not something that you get to or have to deal with. I don't know if that's a get to or a have to deal with, but I'm sure your client comes back and tells you whatever it is they perceive about what the children want. Have you found, and how do you deal with it if you do find this, that they will come back and they're not really representing what the kid wants or kids want, but what they want? And they're telling you it's what the children want. And how do you deal with that?
Well, I think first of all, there has to be trust in the relationship between attorney and client. That's important. The second thing is helping the client understand that what is best for the children may not be the most attractive thing to the parent at that particular time. And
Yes.
that does not minimize their role as a parent. If they have less than 50-50 time, it is not meant to minimize their role or their participation with their children. Um, the children's needs take priority over the parents' wants. And that's
Yes.
very difficult, I think, for the client to acclimate to that perspective.
Yes. And as much as I hate to bring this up, I would rather hear from you because I don't get involved in financial and property issues. So I hear about child support, but I don't deal with it. How much of what a parent wants is tied to what it will do to their child support, either how much they'll pay or how much they'll receive? Do you think parents tell us different things than what they really want or think is best for their kids based on a financial need?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it, Dr. Marlene. I think parents respond to the child support issue, and some of them unfortunately equate additional time with the children with lower child support responsibilities. And it's kind of unfortunate because the difference in child support between a 50-50 arrangement and let's say a two-third, one-third, something like that is not enough to upset the apple cart,
Right.
to destroy an equitable situation. And yet we certainly see people who are motivated by the child support issue. And that's kind of unfortunate. We need to try to move them off of that. But I understand that money is tight during the divorce. Both parents are often stressed over finance. Um, but if they can set that aside or at least compartmentalize that, uh, they can fight about finance. And I would tell a client, if you're bound and determined to fight, let's fight about money. Let's not fight about your children.
Right. Right. Yeah. And there is the emotional aspect of it too, that I think it's hard for parents, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, to accept that their kids don't want that much time with them. But like you said, the kids are not the parents' emotional caretaker, or
No,
shouldn't
and
be. Shouldn't be.
shouldn't be, definitely.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think probably for most, this is coming from the perspective of a parent, not a lawyer, but I think for most kids, they don't want to be with either parent that much after a certain age. They'd rather be
Right.
with their peers.
And that's about 11, give or take. It might be 12, 13, might be 10, but usually around 11 or 12 is when kids start prioritizing friends over family. And it's preparing them to go out into the world as adults in a few short years.
Yeah, I think that the children need to be reassured that both parents love them and both parents are there for them. That's
Mhm.
my perspective on it. And when they are, you're going to get, I think, a healthier child emotionally.
Yes, yes. And I think some kids worry too about taking care of their parents and making sure their parents feel good about whatever they are getting in the divorce, whether it's financial and hopefully they don't know about financial, but in the way of parenting time or whatever. I have kids worry about how their parent is going to feel or react if they don't get what they want, if they don't get 50-50 or whatever it may be. And, I have to tell the kids sometimes too, you're not your parents' emotional caretaker. And sometimes I have to explain what that means. Like, you can't worry about their feelings. Your job is not to worry about what makes them happy or sad. And it's not your job to make sure they're happy, because some kids feel like that's their responsibility now in the middle of all this turmoil to make sure my parent is happy. Not your job.
I think that's critical, and I don't get to work with the
I
child
know.
side of the equation, but I'm sensitive to parents unknowingly even putting their children in the role of emotional caretaker. I think
Hmm.
they don't realize a lot of times that they're doing that. I hope not.
Right, right. Well, I'm going to move on because I do have a story I want to share. I'm going to move on to this, but this is a big do. Listen to what the professionals in your life are telling you or on your case are telling you. Because, and I'll let you share stories too. I'm sure you've got some too. But do listen to your attorney. Do listen to the therapist or mental health professional who might be on your case in a variety of capacities. But if you're going to have these people on your case, listen to what they tell you. Now, if it's a gut instinct of my lawyer wants to go to court, they want to fight, they want to litigate, and that's not what you want, maybe that's not a good match. But as you said, you have to develop trust. And if you're going to trust the people working with you and they're going to trust you, you have to follow what they say. So I
Mm.
will share my story that just happened. But I have an estranged teenage boy and dad. And dad, on several occasions, has done something other than what I told him to do or suggested. I don't tell people what to do. But the most recent incident, he asked how he should handle a certain thing. And I said, let me talk to you about that. Well, then I contacted the kid, and what it was, I can share what it was. The dad wanted to text the kid and tell the kid congratulations about something that happened. But the kid had just asked dad, like last session, not to text him about this particular activity of his. It makes him nervous. It makes it just isn't good for him mentally to hear from dad about that particular activity. And so he had made an accomplishment in regard to that. And so dad reached out to me and said, I know he doesn't want me to text him about this particular thing, but I feel like I'm being a bad parent not to. I feel like I should congratulate him. And all I said is, let me talk to you about that. And then my plan was to talk to the kid and say, dad wants to honor and respect what you asked. On the other hand, he really wants to say something positive about, congratulate you about what just happened. And then ask the kid how or when could he do that in a way that won't upset you. So it's not right before you have a tournament in regard to this particular thing. And when I asked the kid, it just blew up the whole thing because the kid said, "Oh, he didn't wait for you to ask me and get back to him. He's already sent me a text." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, he sent me a text yesterday." Didn't even give it a day for me to talk to the kid and get back with him so we could handle it in the way the kid wanted. So listen to your professionals, listen to your kids. And in this case, he did neither. Now, I don't have to tell you, it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking about it to know that that blew up. And it might seem minor, but it wasn't to the kid. That blew up the whole thing. Now, dad taking what he thought was a positive step to congratulate his kid has made the kid feel two things about dad, both of which are negative: that dad didn't listen to him and dad didn't wait for me. He went ahead and took it into his own hands. And the kid said, "This is how he is. This is what he does. He's not going to respect me. He's not going to wait for you. He's going to do what he wants when he wants it." Well, I can't argue on behalf of dad. I cannot argue. So I know you haven't heard that story. I'm hitting you with it cold, but I would like your feedback on that.
Well, it depends. They say that the answer to every legal question is it depends.
Right,
And
right.
I think it
But do you
depends.
agree they need to listen to us because we have reasons for telling them what we tell them?
Oh, absolutely. One day it would be interesting to know how many hundreds or thousands of children Dr. Marlene has helped come of
Oh,
age.
oh,
Um,
thank you. Thank
that would
you.
be an interesting statistic, I'm sure. But it is critical that the parents and the children try to communicate maybe on a level that they've never communicated before.
Hmm.
And I think that's facilitated by uh, the participation of a mental health professional uh, in the parent-child relationship, because they don't come with owner's manuals, and
Right.
so we need the assistance sometimes of a mental health professional to give us perspective, to uh, point out the impact of certain behaviors on the children and on each other. Quite frankly, when people are litigating, if they're trying to be mean spirited with each other, it shows and makes the case more difficult. And I think it makes the children, I would speculate, more insecure.
Yes. Yes. And you're just when you do things like that, you're just feeding your child's justification for how they feel. And I'm trying to get them to feel differently about you. And I'm trying to help you get them to feel differently about you. But if parents can't follow what we're saying, and I know you in particular, George, have said a mental health professional is your best friend on a case, but I'm sure you tell your clients, listen to what that mental health professional is telling you. Don't go ahead and do what you want. You've got to listen to what they tell you.
Well, and unfortunately, there aren't enough Dr. Marlenes to go around.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't ask him to say these things, folks. No, I appreciate that. But I know you're expecting the same. So, from your perspective of an attorney, I trust you're expecting the same thing, that they follow what you say.
Yeah, that's what they're paying me for. So to ignore what I'm telling them, they say an attorney's advice is his or her stock and trade. So the
Yes.
advice that they can get from the attorney or the mental health professional is invaluable. They need to embrace that advice. And I think that will make everybody's life better.
Yes, yes, for sure. For sure. And like you said, they're paying us for a reason. Why pay us and then do something contrary to what we tell them or ask them to do? Like I said, I don't tell people what to do, but I suggest. And if you're not going to follow my suggestion, I'm not sure what you're paying me for. But anyway, time for another quick break. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Before we went to break, we were talking about parents needing to follow what the professionals tell them to do. I have one thing to add to that we were talking about at break, and that is if you're not going to follow what we suggested, at least tell us. Because in this case, the story I was just sharing, had I known that dad had gone ahead and reached out to the kid, then I wouldn't have told the kid that I was feeling him out to find out what he wanted for dad. Because in doing that, I just made it worse because he said, well, he didn't wait for you. He already texted me. So he's not going to listen to you either. He doesn't listen to anyone. What can you say to that when they're right? Other than you're right. I mean, I, of course, didn't say that. But, I also couldn't refute what he was saying. So, by gosh, if you're not going to follow what we said, at least tell us that you've done something different so that we know and don't make matters worse. I never would have told the kid that I was asking him for this reason because dad just made things even worse.
Yeah, I think it behooves parents to try to work with the mental health professional as opposed to the lawyer when it comes to child issues. And I stand by that. A mental health professional on the case is my best friend because it affords me the opportunity to mesh what I'm advising the client of and what the mental health professional is advising the client of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very helpful when that happens. And so we see people who are not educated or skillful in these various issues and how it impacts the children and so forth. So it really does behoove them to listen to the professionals and ask why if you don't understand. Uh, Certainly, that's a legitimate question. Why, but Mr. Attorney or Miss Attorney, why do I have to do this? Why am I doing? What is our perspective on this? Where are we going? How do we get there? Ask those questions of the attorney. Um, they're very important and they have answers. And I think sometimes when people understand the process or the system a little bit better, it gives them some assurance. They're less afraid of what's going to happen to them. Um,
Right,
and I
right.
think that's the perspective that a lot of people have is what is going to happen to me as a result of this case. And again, parents can keep more control. I'm not going to say total control, but they keep more control over their own lives uh, through means other than litigation. Because in
Yes.
litigation, you're going to have a judge who's heard 2 or 3 hours of testimony and argument. Um, and then you're going to be told what to do, what you can do, what
Hmm.
you can't do, what you have to do. And a lot of people resent that. They'd rather have control over their own lives. And fortunately, for better or worse, the way to do that is to stay out of the courtroom.
Right, right. And would you agree, and it's basically what you're saying, but I'm just going to word it differently, but you would agree that parents will have much greater buy-in to an agreement that they came up with together than something dictated by the court.
Absolutely. And it bodes well for post decree situations uh, to be resolved through means other than litigation as well. Once a precedent is set between the particular couple for resolving conflict outside of the courtroom, I think they're more likely to return to that if things come up post decree.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, I would agree. Because once they've done it, that's going to become kind of their precedent that we can do this ourselves. And
Yes. Well,
at least have the conversation. But if their go-to is to litigate, then that's going to be that will be the precedent.
and I speculate because it's not my lane, but I speculate that children of parents who are engaged in parental conflict all the time want to get away from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the single greatest harm to kids who are enduring their parents' divorce is exposure to the parents' conflict. The single greatest harm. So yeah,
Mhm.
they don't want to hear about it, know that it's happening. They certainly don't want to be brought into the middle of it. But even knowing it's happening, we were talking last night in class about even if you don't have contact, direct contact with the other parent in the presence of your children, if you're talking to them on the phone or something like that, and they hear your tone of voice, they see the expression on your face, they read your body language, they know if you're fighting. They're not stupid.
Oh, I don't think
You
there's
know,
any question about it. And
yeah.
I believe that once they reach teenage years, they want to absent themselves from that
Hmm.
conflict.
Hmm.
They'd rather
Yes.
hang around with their friends. They'd rather absent themselves from the conflict. They probably vent to their friends about their
Hmm.
parents.
Hmm.
and
Yes. Yes. And they
so,
vent to me about their parents too.
uh, and I don't see any of that side of it.
Right.
But I would imagine that helping the parents understand the harm that it invokes on their children would
Hmm.
motivate them to choose differently as to how they proceed.
You would hope. We certainly hope.
We do.
Yeah. That's why I had to tell the dad yesterday. you just made things worse. I said, this has adversely affected the process. And I told him it was too much to text, but that I would send him an email, which I will still do, and will detail why he shot himself in the foot with that in two ways: not listening to your kid and not listening to me.
And for your viewers and listeners, could you just give a brief explanation of what status conferences are like, or what they consist of, what they address?
Yes, since I was just in one today, we talked about a couple of things. One that had nothing to do with me, which was changing child support based on the amount of time each parent has right now. But the other, actually, ironically, was to address whether to continue with reunification therapy, because it isn't appearing to be producing much progress. Well, what I told the judge, and I explained to her that I had told this to a group of family law attorneys, our family law bar in my community, at a conference last November where I presented on the topic of reunification therapy. And I told the judge I started, and one of the attorneys was in that presentation too, and was nodding that he was there. But anyway, I told the judge I started and ended that presentation with, this takes time. It takes time. So ultimately, the result today was the judge said, yes, we will continue reunification therapy. We need to give it time. It's best for your child, even if it doesn't produce progress in the relationship. It's best for your child to have someone to talk to and to process these things with. And no matter the outcome when we come back to court in 4 months, he's going to be better off because he's had a therapist there to talk to him, help guide him through it. The other thing that she made clear, because I brought up, I said, I am not asking, Your Honor, and you certainly don't need to tell us, but she did, whether or not you would allow a child this age to say if he wants to have a relationship with the other parent or not. And she actually said, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because no, I will not let a child this age say whether he can have a relationship with the other parent or not. And I thought that was good for the quote unquote favored parent to hear that. So it's not just me forcing therapy, it's a judge saying therapy's best regardless of the outcome. And ultimately, I'm not going to let this child at his age, which I believe is 13, just decide what he wants and whether or not he wants a relationship with the other parent. So yes, we will continue reunification therapy. I expect both parents to be supportive of that process and to encourage the child to participate appropriately in the process. That's how it goes. And again, did you really need the judge to tell you what to do? Just follow, just follow the process. Just follow the process. And a lot of parents have trouble doing that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And again, the ability to subordinate the anger and the frustration and the fear of the parent to the well-being of their children is critical. And we're asking
Yeah.
a lot.
Yes, yes, but it is critical. And that's a mic drop. Plus, we're out of time. So thank you for being here. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you've been watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.
Tune in to The High Road with host Dr. Marlene and gain insight into how to rise above tough circumstances and learn the skills that will help you take the high road in your life, no matter what challenges might come your way, on the next episode of The High Road.